Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Awesome to be here. Glad the weather cleared up. I was really worried this morning. Been to Barcelona a couple times. Pretty amazing we're throwing the event here this week. I'm from AirSwap. Name's Don Mosites. I'm a co-founder and contributor. Today, I wanted to do a combination of sharing information about the project and doing kind of an interactive demonstration of the different pieces that come together. That's me. So taking it from the top, Airswap technology. Airswap is a peer-to-peer decentralized exchange. It's actually founded a few years ago. In particular, with the Airswap DEX, clients connect and trade directly with market makers. So this is different from an on-chain AMM. The benefits that you get when you're trading directly with market makers is that it's still non-custodial, but it's actually MEV resistant and there's zero price slippage, which is fantastic. Unlimited size, competitive prices, and no listing process. So these are all great benefits to peer-to-peer trading. And in my opinion, another great benefit of the project is that it's developed and owned by an open source community. 100% open these days. Airswap today, as mentioned, it was founded a few years ago in 2017, but since the DAO launch last year, over 1.4 billion in volume with over 1.46 million in protocol fees have been distributed. Over 50 proposals have been implemented by 25 plus contributors, and 100% of those protocol fees are distributed to the community. Airswap over the years has been recognized by the St. Louis Fed as the leading peer-to-peer trading protocol by MIT Technology Review and by the Stanford Journal on Blockchain Law and Policy. So, with the launch of Airswap v3 in the last couple of weeks, it's now also available on Avalanche, which is very exciting. And before we dive in, I want to share some terminology on trading, particularly in the peer-to-peer context, where a maker is generally offering prices online and available. So the maker is kind of ready to trade when you are. The taker accepts or declines prices and comes online when they're ready to trade. So that's basically everyone else. And a swap is the atomic transaction that moves tokens between the maker and the taker. Atomic essentially means that it either succeeds or fails as a single unit. So it's impossible for one side to end up with more tokens than it's expected. Key use cases for Airswap and peer-to-peer trading in particular are RFQ, which is request for quote, which is an automated request response protocol for market makers running web servers, clients that request orders from those servers and perform the atomic swap on chain. Another automated protocol we call Last Look, which is a streaming protocol that allows market makers to stream quotes. So effectively, the real-time prices, and clients can take the last price and sign an order and send it back to the maker, who in turn takes it for settlement. Finally, over-the-counter trading, which is between people. Still peer-to-peer, still uses an atomic swap. It's probably the purest form of AirSwap. But it's between known counterparties via chat applications or any other way to negotiate a trade, and then using Airswap for settlement. Some of the largest trades in DeFi have been made using Airswap OTC, upwards of 30 million US in value. So a quick look at OTC trading, where both the maker and taker are people. We have a front-end application at trader.airswap.io where, for example, two people can be in a Discord channel or on a Telegram group or something and work out an OTC trade they'd like to make without involving or deferring to any kind of escrow or admin of the group or anything, which can be very dangerous. One person involved comes onto the site, punches in the terms of the trade, and then shares that with, they sign it with their wallet first, and then shares that with the taker. And then if the taker takes it, they submit the atomic swap transaction, and the tokens move between them. So, very simple, but very powerful. we go into the automated trading side of things, where using the same protocols, the takers are clients and the makers are servers. So these are just running on the public internet. And this gives you a UX like this, which you're probably largely familiar with. Airswap was, I think, the first like token swapping UI that looked like this a few years ago, and the same protocol can essentially support an instant swapping kind of UX. On the behind the scenes, it is a little bit more complicated. The trading protocol in the top left half involves a smart contract that is used for counterparty discovery, in addition to a wrapper which moves between ETH and WETH, or ETH and WETH, and finalizes with a swap. So you actually also see that we have the Airswap.io front end, which I just showed you, but we also have aggregators which pull up the liquidity from market makers on Airswap and integrate it into, for example, MetaMask swaps directly. The bottom half, which is the rewards protocol, is actually what supports the DAO system these days. So there's a whole other kind of thread there. I'd be very happy to talk about how the DAO works and how it supports itself if you're interested. So, all right, let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit. So I was hoping to actually demonstrate how some of the pieces fit together to give you a sense of the mechanics and the architecture. So we can actually start with a demo maker, which once you pull it down and set up your environment file, will actually start a server that runs both an RFQ and the streaming protocol. So you can run it and connect to it for testing. So that's where I am currently on the demo screen. Is the text big enough? Can you guys? Yes. All right. All right. So I can actually just fire this up with yarn dev. Okay, it's loaded its account. It's running on the Fuji testnet. It's loaded both the last look and request for quote protocols. Now that we've got that running, we actually have a fairly powerful CLI that can be used for interacting with servers, setting up, configuring, like if you're a market maker and you need to configure your URLs in the registry for counterparty discovery, we do that through the CLI as well. But in this case, we're going to test by actually doing some swaps from the CLI with the server. So yeah, first step is yarn global add airswap. That'll install the airswap CLI. I already have it configured locally, but you would set the chain to 43113, which is the Fuji testnet. Import or generate an account. Set your gas to 225. Approve your tokens. In this case, we have wrapped, AVAX, and AST. And then you can stream open or RFQ get. So actually, first I'm going to try an RFQ get, which will actually send a request to the server for a signed order, which will return it, and then we could submit it to the blockchain and perform the swap. So the locator in this case would be localhost 3000. I don't remember which account holds which tokens, so maybe we'll just try to buy some AST, small amount, or wrapped AVAX. All right, so on the server side, you can see that the server got the request and made the order. And these are the parameters of the order, including the ECDSA signature. That is represented here through the impact on your wallet and the same parameters. We're going to attempt to take it. This should actually be sending it out to Fuji. This is currently working on Fuji testnet, excellent, but also possible with any other EVM chain. So we theoretically, well, I'm not sure what that is. Here we go. Got it. Perfect. All right, so that succeeded. And you'll notice the third transfer in here actually going to the Airswap DAO wallet, essentially, as the protocol fee. What we can also do is try to open up a streaming connection. So if you try Airswap Stream Open, in this case, we're actually going to use WS as the URL schema in order to connect to the WebSocket. And you can see, I'll do the same thing. What did I do? Buy. All right. So on the server side, we have a connection from localhost, which is a good sign. And the server doesn't actually announce what it's streaming out, but you can see at the bottom here that we have the current price for 0.01 AST is 0.011 wrapped AVAX. And you can see that this actually is streaming every second as the ticker is increasing. So in a real-world example, the server would be either reading prices off of some other exchange or Oracle somehow, and then streaming those out. Maybe it's got its internal strategies that it wants to run. In this case, the pricing on the server is simply based on a file called levels, which goes into much more detail than we need at the moment, but I'd be very happy to explain this as we go. So this level structure would be kind of created in real time based on the tokens available and the prices at which they're trading. So we're currently connected to the socket, and if we press enter, we've got the same or similar UI. You can type yes, and what this will actually do is on the CLI side, sign an order with these parameters and then send it over to the server. And you can see on the server side that in this case it's taking. And on the server side, it submitted the transaction and successfully mined it. Yeah, looks good. All right. So I realized that it may be an interesting topic to think about in which circumstances you'd use RFQ versus streaming. They each have their kind of own strengths and weaknesses. Quickly on RFQ, I think that it's most taker-friendly because you essentially have a guaranteed price for a certain amount of time until the order expires. But because the maker is tied to that expiration time, they actually have to widen their spreads a little bit to account for it. So in the streaming case, where the client sends the order to the server actually does not have to submit the transaction to fill it. If the market moves more than they're comfortable with, then they could actually decline to submit it. But generally, and so in the cases that this happens, it could be a poor user experience for the client. But generally, we see that makers do want to allow for a little bit of leeway to be able or to build good relationships with their clients. And so with the streaming stuff, you get better prices, real-time prices. It's all pretty good. So in that case, I'm actually going to continue. So pretty straightforward to download these projects and add the CLI and check it out. You certainly should sometime if you'd like to. And I whipped up a front end just to show that the same kinds of tools and packages can run in browser just as easily. So I'm actually going to just start this up. And then let me show what's going on here a little bit. Oh, perfect. I knew that was going to happen. Huh. All right, nobody watch me do this. Hang on a second. Still need to maintain your OPSEC on the road, you know? All right. So, cool. Now we have a web app that's just used, that's running using a Create React app. It uses, I think, like Web3, some kind of Web3 React hook situation. I'm not a recent React developer, so I apologize. But this is actually connecting to the same server. You can see connection from, in this case, : 1. And on the client side, let's see here real quick. Yeah, we've got a WebSocket to localhost, kind of getting into the details a little bit. But you can see each frame is actually a JSON RPC message that includes updated pricing. So it's actually emitting this stuff to the client. And then the client can, at any moment, know exactly what the price of a trade would be. So in this case, we can adjust this to 100. It actually knows exactly what the price would be. It shows you that it's 90 in this case. So yeah, I think on the application side, again, not a recent React developer, so this is probably pretty ugly. But essentially, what happens here is that the page loads, it connects to your wallet. When it does that, it fetches token metadata. So we actually have a package called Airswap Metadata, which supports, like, I don't know, 8 or 10 different chains. So you can actually provide the chain ID. It'll give you all the tokens it knows about, so it's super helpful. In this case, we're on Fuji testnet, so it actually just knows about 2, which are Wrapped, AVAX, and AST. In order to connect to the server, you simply import a library called server from Airswap libraries, and you can call the server.at function, provide it a server URL. And what actually happens under the hood here is it goes out and connects to the server, asks what protocols it supports, and then offers you those protocols as a client dev. So in this case, the assumption actually is that it's a last look server and sets up event handlers for pricing events and errors. And that's about it. But on the server, you do need to subscribe to the pairs you're interested in. So you would actually tell the server that I am interested in trading Wrapped, AVAX, and AST. Each one of those emitted events comes in as a pricing event, so then you can handle the pricing however you want to on the client side. So all very straightforward, I think. All right. Just going to keep this open for fun. Okay, so all the pieces fit together. More ideas. So we had the basic use cases earlier between RFQ and streaming and OTC. There are lots of things that you can do with peer-to-peer trading. It is a simple protocol, but it's very powerful. For example, OTC for NFTs is something that's definitely picking up steam. NFTs and other ERC-721s can be very easily swapped for other ERC-721s or ERC-20s, likely EIP 1155. So it's a great tool for swapping NFTs and building UIs and marketplaces that can support that. Security tokens, while they had a moment a couple years ago, there's still something certainly powerful there where the transfer restrictions of the asset are programmed into the token itself. It's a perfect fit for atomic swaps. Another interesting one that's been executed a few times by teams is using Airswap for token launches, because you can essentially run a server with prices, potentially with an allow list, and run your token launch that way. And they all share the same benefits of the underlying protocol, which is efficient, MEV-resistant, trustless swaps. If you ever have any questions about this or would like to talk more about it, please drop me an email. Our Discord is very active, very fun. So please drop by chat.airswap.io too and say hi. Love to see you. Happy to answer any questions or curiosities. Greatly appreciate your time. Thanks.
OTC for NFTs, what would the user experience be like? Is this something that a regular user, a non-tech user can interface and manage, or are they going to need some tech capability?
Excellent question. So the question is about the user experience in trading NFTs versus maybe other tokens.
Sure. Using, for example, going on a marketplace where everything is so simple.
Yeah.
Well, relatively simple.
Yep. And more visual for NFTs.
Visual,
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately the UX would be kind of tailored to that use case.
Mm-hmm.
Right now on Airswap Trader, if you punch in the address and ID of an NFT, it'll actually bring up the image, and you can select it and make a trade that way on Trader. If you were to use Airswap to support a marketplace, which supports trading,
Mm-hmm.
the marketplace would be an application that uses Airswap trading kind of under the hood. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And so while the front end products and experiences can all look totally tailored to specific use cases, the underlying peer-to-peer protocols are all the same. Thank you. Yes.
Peter, could you please explain the usability of atomic token swaps is already live somewhere for Avalanche? And that's question number one. And question number two, if it is, where it is. And question number two is the naming of the panel is or the meeting is building your own, I guess, P2P application. This content for building that you use all the information is going to be available, and do you is it like good for you if other people create their own P2P swaps using your Airswap code?
Thanks.
One question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I think the first question is it available on Avalanche?
Is it live, and is it and how to reach it already if it's available?
Live and how to use it on Avalanche. And the second is whether we want people building stuff using Airswap, I guess. So the first one is that it is live. So all of the contracts in the latest version, which was V3, which was recently just fully developed and completed, underwent security audits recently. It's all finalized and locked up. Those are all deployed on Avalanche and ready to go. So the tooling that I'm using here is actually simply talking to the Fuji testnet. But you could swap that chain ID out, and it would work all the same with mainnet. So it's ready to go. You just change the chain ID. Which basically means point it at a different network. And then the second question is certainly yes, we want as many people as possible building on Airswap. We believe in the power of the underlying technology and the promise of peer-to-peer trading itself. So the more, the better. And we're an open source DAO, so it's all here. Everything's participatory. Like to be as open as possible. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as well as that, is there any more resource for people trying out this kind of stuff, like the Discord part for trying new decisions?
Yes. Yep. We have Discord channels you can drop into, ask questions. Lots of friendly faces are happy to help. If you go to airswap.io or directly to about.airswap.io, there's a kind of a wiki that has an explanation of the project and the protocols and how they work and everything. Yeah, please check it out. Thanks. Yes?
Could you please explain where does the server get the token prices from?
Yes. So the server gets the token prices from sources that it deems to be good sources of prices. Yes, sorry.
Is it like a centralized base, or could it, for example,
Yes. So the servers essentially choose what their sources of pricing information are, and they, in their servers, generally have their software running in a way that they can price their trades based on lots of different conditions. So they may be taking lots of different sources of data from centralized sources and decentralized oracles. But on their server, they essentially can pull in whatever they think is the best in order to most successfully make the trades they're trying to make. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. Greatly appreciate it.